I think all of four of us agree that any good humor that we have came from my mother's family. It came to them naturally, evidently from my grandfather, because as we've said, my grandmother was a little nervous wreck. But they were the type of people who sang around the piano every night and sat by the fire and told tales and ate ice cream under the maple tree in the afternoons in the summer. And and they were very jolly people. They told funny stories. It was fun. They were fun people. And my mother was. She laughed a lot. She was a very beautiful woman. I think this may be a picture of her on her wedding day. I'm not positive about that, but I think so. It's the only one I have that I would think would be. This looks like everybody's great-grandmother that was in that era. This was Grandma Condrey. And it's just pitiful that every woman that age looked exactly like this.
As we grew older, on rainy days, we were allowed to skate up and down this long hall. It wasn't a tremendous house, but to me the hall was very long at that time, and it went down the bedroom side of the house all the way to the back screen porch. And we'd have a wonderful time. Our friends could come over. Anybody that wanted to could come and skate up and down the hall. Obviously, there was no rug on the hall. And the children, Mother and Daddy, always had the baby in the room with them. But the older children were in what we call the sleeping porch, because it had nothing but windows on two different sides. And in this sleeping porch, it was a wonderful place to get on our knees on a bed and look out over at the house next door where my cousins lived and spy on them, everything they were doing. We could see everything. And in those days, people had their windows open. There was no machinery running so that you didn't hear. No washing machines, of course. The wash was sent out or either done at home.
So he takes Connie to school. By then, our nurses have us up, Joanne and me, and we are dressed and have our breakfast, and we're ready to go to the hospital to see the baby. I'm not sure it meant anything to Joanne because she was so little. She was 3. But Daddy takes us to the hospital. We go in, and I'm really ticked off with Mother for leaving home and having a baby, or getting a new baby sister once enough. And I can remember I refused to look at the baby. And I can remember Mother being kind of tickled. I said, no, I'd see her plenty when she got home. That's Prather. Well, while we were there, all of a sudden, the fire sirens started screaming out, and people were running and running, and Daddy had parked our car over a pile of burning leaves when he took Joanne and me to the hospital to see Mother. And our car was burning up. It was out in front of the hospital, flames. And there we were in the hospital looking out the window at our car burning. But some man was burning leaves out in the street, on the curb. I mean, this was unusual in Greenville. Streets weren't even paved. And evidently, it still had quite a bit of flame in it, and he didn't know it, or he didn't realize it, or he didn't see it. I don't know what, but the car burned the morning Prather was born. So, but that's Prather. That was what I remember about Prather.
In Christmas 2002, we had the 100th celebration that the Beelands had Christmas in my grandfather's house, where Francis Frakes now lives in Tut. And it was a wonderful occasion. We all the men had to rent tuxedos if they didn't have them, even the little boys, and we all dressed up. It ended up, I was really disappointed because black was in 2002, and we looked like a bunch of penguins with the men in tuxedos and the women in black. I really hated that we didn't have colors, but anyway.
I never did.
Now this is Prather.
This is
right
my spot.
here.
This is my spot.
It's your spot where you ran from Daddy Bob.
Well, if you were going to let me tell it,
Well,
there
you
was
tell it your way.
there was a huge tree right here,
Don't get this garbage.
a big oak tree right here, and this is where Joanne and I made fairy houses on the roots of the oak tree, and
And we had a
and
sandbox.
had a sandbox out here, and then my grandfather would come from down here at his house, and as I said yesterday, with his rosebud in his lapel,
bloom.
and I was in awe of him. Didn't know him, but I would run and hide behind another tree and peep at him. I didn't have any relationship, but I remember doing that, and maybe I remember it because people reminded me of it all the time. But this is the famous tree of
Right.
my life with Daddy Bob.
Well, it was our tree too, because even when I was a child, and even when Maud was a child, we used to have the big sand pile swings in the big oak tree, and that's the reason this walk comes out like it does, because the roots
the
were
oak tree
all the
was
way
here.
out here.
And our swings hung.
And
out
we
here.
were in awe of our grandfather, but we ran out and hugged him always.
Joanne did.
Every morning.
Well,
Joanne
we
was-
did too.
Well, no, but y'all weren't the sand pile. Y'all were too old for the sand.
Joanne, this sand
we
pile
were
was
little.
here.
When we were little girls.
Maud and I used to swing together in the swings.
Oh, I
The
didn't
sandbox had been
Yeah,
here
we
when
didn't
we
swing
were-
together.
You weren't the only ones that had the sand pile. We had it a long time before you were born.
Thought it was my thing.
No,
No.
we had a huge sandbox out here.
Well, y'all are just so much older.
That's
I
right.
wouldn't remember that.
You're right.
That's right, but absolutely.
We had a big
sure.
sandbox and swings.
We were the original sand pile girls.